Good morning. It's good to see you all. So this was a big week for many of us for various different reasons. But one reason is that many of us watched as election results rolled in on Tuesday night and on Wednesday and Thursday and last night, and as we still wait and see how things pan out. This week, we also watched as history was being made while many people became the first. In Massachusetts, Maura Healey became the first openly gay person and the first woman to be elected as governor in Massachusetts. In Florida, Maxwell Frost became the first Gen Z U.S. House member. Wes Moore became the first Black governor in Maryland, and Becca Kalin became the first woman elected to Congress in Vermont. It's interesting, really, that in 2022, we are still celebrating the fact that these people are the first. Because when we look back into history, we can see the many people who have already worked at paving the way for changes to be made for justice and equality for all. Our scripture for today looks at 5 audacious women who sought for a new kind of change that would last not only for them, but for generations to come. Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah were the daughters of Zelophehad. And after their father died, they went to Moses and asked him to reconsider the law that required a man to own land, even when there were no men left in their family. Together, these 5 sisters spoke to Moses about that. One of them said that their father died in the wilderness. The second followed that he was not among the Korah's faction, which had banded together against God. And another had said, therefore he died for his own sin. The fourth said that there were no sons, and the final daughter said, why should our family name disappear just because there are no sons? We are here, and we can take ownership of the property. These 5 sisters asked for what was theirs, and without asking this, they would have never received what was rightfully theirs because of tradition. Together, they worked up the courage to formulate a plan and ask, and in return started a new practice of reconsidering the past for the sake of a new generation. At the time in history of this story, several things are happening that are noteworthy for readers to know beyond this patriarchal system in place. First of all, the book of Numbers starts with the Israelite people moving from Mount Sinai, a mountain that does not physically move, to a tent that is capable of moving, a tent of meeting. The tent of meeting was considered a living place, a place where people could interact with God. And prior to this, the Israelites escaped slavery and began this long journey to the promised land. But along the way, they complained a lot. They complained that they wanted better food. They complained that they wanted more power. They complained about wanting to reject God, and they complained about finding other gods to worship instead. This whole males only can inherit property, in this instance, goes deeper than a gender inequality. In this tradition, there was a high priority in keeping land within specific tribes and families so that all of the 12 tribes of Israel could have a somewhat equal amount of land. Now, it was possible to buy and sell land to other tribes and families, but every 50 years, the year of Jubilee would happen. and all of the land was reverted back to its original families and tribes. So in this story, we learn that two things happen here in tradition. The property must stay in the family, and the property must go to men. But what happens when two of those things compete against each other? Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah planned a request for change with thoughtful conviction. They provided a model that a new generation could follow, rather than being like the older generation who used inappropriate means to generate change, like complaining and turning to other gods when they didn't get what they wanted. These 5 women left readers a way for new generations to move forward and change what needed to be changed, while also holding on to traditions that can benefit the whole community. They knew that situations would arise when past traditions would not be able to answer based on old traditions, and sometimes things just need to change. And this is how they base their argument of why they should be the ones to inherit their family's land. They emphasize that because it is an important tradition to keep land within a family and tribe, they should be the ones to inherit this land. And God agreed with them. These 5 women were not only helping themselves, but they also were advocating on behalf of future generations. They taught future generations to argue persuasively to overturn traditions that needed to be overturned, while honoring traditions that had deep purpose. These women set examples for future generations of boldness, advocacy, and faithfulness. These 5 women were the first women to inherit property in the Bible and could possibly even be argued to be some of the first feminists we can look to for ideas on how to promote change. John Goldingay describes these biblical feminists in his book Numbers and Deuteronomy for Everyone as the idea that these are people who, in their study of Scripture, are conscious of their particular identity and experience as women, and who know that women are just as fully human as men, but also that they have not often been treated in that way. They know that biblical scholarship has been dominated by men who have not noticed the presence or absence of women in biblical stories, or spotted issues raised for women by scriptures, or seen ways in which starting from women's experiences opens up aspects of Scripture. So it's interesting to think that the writer of Numbers not only included this story, but also included all 5 of the names of Zelophehad's daughters. I'm sure that there are plenty of things that have been left out of this story, and it's a start. It's a start for people everywhere to recognize that women deserve to be and deserve to have. We could call it a radical or feisty feminist movement, but at the end of the day, feminism and feisty biblical scholars are simply noticing and proclaiming that women are people too. So many years after this story, and looking back throughout our own history, I wanted to recognize 5 other famous women. 5 women who paved the way for people here in this country, some of which are found in this book that I brought called She Persisted. The first notable woman that I want to recognize is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born a slave. She escaped and became one of the most famous conductors of the Underground Railroad, risking her life to lead countless other slaves to freedom. And every single person that she led to freedom arrived safely. Harriet Tubman was also the first woman to lead a major military operation in which she and 150 African American Union soldiers rescued over 700 slaves. Harriet Tubman provided people everywhere an example of what it looks like to stand up for the freedom of all people, even at the risk of one's own life. Clara Lemlich was a woman who organized picket lines and strikes that resulted in better pay, shorter hours, and safer working conditions for workers. Clara continued her advocacy toward better working conditions for workers by founding the Wage Earners Suffrage League. She continued advocating for better working conditions while she lived in a nursing home, helping to persuade workers in her nursing home to organize labor unions amongst themselves. Clara Lemlich provided us with an example of standing up and advocating for people to be treated with respect and paid livable wages, no matter where they are from or what their gender is. Claudette Colvin was 15 years old when she refused to stand up and give her seat away to a white woman, simply because she was white and Claudette was not. Claudette paved the way for other civil rights activists like Rosa Parks to do the same thing 9 months later. Claudette Colvin taught us the importance of being one of the first to stand up and say, "This is not right," so many others can follow the brave example to create change too. In 1976, Kathy Schweitzer became the first woman to officially register and complete the Boston Marathon. Despite being yelled at by the press and being chased down by the race organizer while running the race, she finished the marathon. And she is quoted in saying that, "If I don't finish this race, nobody's going to believe women can do it, and they're not going to believe women deserve to be here. I have to finish the race." Kathy Schweitzer showed the world that women could, in fact, run, and that it would not actually cause hair to grow on their chests or to cause their uteruses to fall out, as she told Sky Sports News in 2015. The final woman that I bring to you today is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because without her, married women would not be able to get credit cards on their own. Until the mid-1970s, married women were not allowed to get a credit card or a loan in their own name. Single women, too, had trouble getting credit, often having to turn to male relatives to help sign with them. And throughout her lifetime, RBG said treating men and women differently based on their sex was unconstitutional and fought for equality. Ruth Bader Ginsburg showed us the importance of standing up and saying women get to decide these things too. I'm sure that many of us have our own famous 5 people that we look to for inspiration and courage. I hope we can all continue to learn from those who went before us and continue to be thankful for them. And I hope that we continue to do the same for others. And it seems fitting to leave us with the words from Hillary Clinton in 2016, when she told people, and especially to some little girls, "To all of the little girls who are watching this, never doubt that you are valuable, powerful, and deserving of every opportunity in the world and every chance to pursue your own dreams. May we all know that we're valuable, powerful, and deserving. And may we also continue to advocate for that to be true for everyone."